Hi, I'm Kurt from Kurt's Auto. This is my 1985 Pontiac Trans Am that I saved from going to the junkyard, and this is part 3 of trying to make this car run and drive.
Oh wow, look at how bent that is. But look what I found here. They fixed this one with duct tape. Instead of taking the tank out, somebody spray painted duct tape and thought that nobody would ever know. So far I've snapped off both the bolts that hold it. Oh wow, it rusted right through the frame of the seat. So the frame of the seat's in pretty rough condition. This control arm, there's a huge bend in it. Well, it won't even start right now. Tons of noise on both sides. After realizing how bad a shape the seats are in, all the suspension components that are bent, I'm gonna get a different car. Well, I finally have my 85 Pontiac Trans Am back inside the garage. We need to put exhaust on it. I have the engine completely done. Last video I put the motor back in and got it all put back together. However, I still do not have any exhaust. So I just had quite a fun morning here getting this thing unstuck. As you can see, it was stuck in the mud. Anyway, the car's back inside the garage and I have my hoist. The one reason I didn't want to do the exhaust before is on my scissors lift in my other garage. I'm too old. It only goes up so high. I can't get underneath and weld a car like that again. I did it like 3 times last year, and this was sitting outside and just had to be installed. So my hoist is now put in. The car is now in the garage, so we are going to figure out what we have to do the exhaust. I also am having trouble starting it, which I remembered back to the first video, that there's something going on with the fuel system. So when it tries to start, it takes a really long time to start, and you got to really prime the engine quite a bit. And I'm pretty sure that there's a leak in the fuel system. The very first time I looked at the car, when I finally got it to fire up, gas was dripping on the trailer. So I never did look at that again. Now that I have the hoist, it's going to be a lot easier to look at. So I'm going to get it up in the air and see what's going on underneath it. All right, so I got it in the air. And yeah, you can see I wrapped a strap around the sway bar. Didn't have to pull it really hard because it was on flat ground, but it was in the mud and it just sank. So I have to deal with that. And the other thing I really don't like, and I remembered why I hated gravel so much. It's going to make a mess every time I pull in and out of the garage. So especially when you have mud on the tires. But this is the condition of the bottom of the car. It is completely saturated with wetness from being outside. Yeah, I don't really smell gas or see it leaking right now, but it took a long time for it to prime. And I remember when it was on the trailer, something up in there was leaking fuel. So definitely got some work to do. But yeah, currently this is my exhaust. It's just cut off right here and there's nothing. So I think what I'm going to do to put this back together as inexpensively as possible is merge these two pipes together into a single pipe and then run a factory exhaust system with like a turbo muffler on it with dual tips. I think that's the least expensive option that's going to sound good and be the easiest way to go. So, but overall this car's in pretty good shape. Rust wise, it's all really solid underneath. The motor has just about everything new. Harmonic balancer, timing chain, all of the gaskets, the starter, the alternator, the AC compressor looks newer. Should be a really good car when it's done. I may even merge the pipes here and put a single 90 here and get rid of these kinks. I don't know. I don't like any of this work that they did, but we'll figure it out. Now that I can stand up underneath it, it's so much better than trying to do it crouched down. So we're gonna get this car completely fixed so it's roadworthy. Well, so I started looking at the fuel, and we've got some cobbling here. We got 3/8 fuel line, which I do not believe is fuel injection hose. So they have regular low pressure fuel line coming off of the sending unit. So pretty sure the sending unit inside the gas tank is a problem. Unfortunately, I do not want to take the tank out, but I'm gonna have to. So yeah, these cars are not fun to get the gas tanks out of. You got to pull. Oh wow, look at how bent that is. Okay, well, that's a problem. The track bar is completely trashed here. Just found that too. I don't think I have another one of those. It's actually been welded here, it looks like. Oh, sometimes you don't want to keep finding things because we got leaks here. We've got sway bar bushings that are completely gone back here. Yeah, so besides the exhaust, it appears that I have to clean the tires, drop the gas tank, fix a pinion seal, and replace a track bar. Or at least, well, yeah, that's bent. I don't think I have an extra one. I have a couple of these cars laying around, so you'd think I would, but anyway, I'm going to get this exhaust tackled and figure out how I want to do this. I really don't like the way they cut and did this, because right here you can see it's bottomed out. But I feel like to take that and cut it up higher, it's just a whole lot of extra work at this point. I think either cut it here and merge them together with one piece. Yep, we're gonna figure it out. Anyway, I just thought I'd show you that. I'm definitely taking the gas tank out. We've got some problems up in there. Not good. Well, I guess since we're tallying things up here, the transmission mount is definitely broken too. I can see that that thing's crooked and it's not even sitting in there straight. So transmission mount, add to the list. There's still quite a bit wrong with this car. The dilemmas of trying to fix some of these cars and put them back on the road. If I fix everything that's wrong with it, I'll never get all my money back out of it. I feel like maybe I'm going to give it over to somebody in a less completed position. That way they have something to work on and they can fix some of these like seal leaks and sway bar bushings and all of these parts, because if I keep adding up all these parts, it's going to get expensive. All right, so what I've decided to do for the exhaust is in this area here, I had enough room to hack it apart. I just had this bottle kind of holding that plastic out of my way. I cut both pipes even and got rid of these two sections here. And I cut a V into this pipe, and then I squished them together and lined it up, and I marked this pipe on the inside with a marker. So I'm going to take this off, cut the V out of this piece, so that way I can push these together and merge them with basically come out of here with a 90-degree bend back into a 45-degree bend in order to connect the exhaust again. To buy a new Y pipe, I kind of hate doing this because it's cobbling it up a little bit. But to buy this new Y pipe, it's pretty expensive. So with my two pieces notched, I'll go ahead and I'll get this put back together, bolt it back on, and then we'll weld this back together like that with a 90-degree coming right off of it, probably into a 3-inch. That will end up downsizing back to a... We might keep it full 3-inch. I don't know. I'm going to see what kind of an exhaust system I can purchase. But I have to get my welder back here, but that's going to be the ultimate goal. Piece of mandrel bent 3-inch pipe, and I hammered it and modified it and made it fit to where I can actually get it to weld right on there. First step is going to be to weld this part to make my Y pipe come back together to be a single exhaust, because they had dual pipes running back that were just terrible. Not the prettiest weld job, but I now have a 3-inch pipe here where I can reduce it down, bring it out, and bring it back with the probably a factory size exhaust pipe, because this engine is nothing special and it's just stock. Well, so I went through and I decided to go through and look at the entire vehicle and see what parts are actually bad on it. As you can see, I've got some pinion seal leakage here. Not horrible, but it's definitely wet. We've got sway bar links, trashed, making tons of noise on both sides. This control arm, there's a huge bend in it because somebody probably put a floor jack underneath here and tried lifting, and they actually bent the control arm. Kind of the same deal here. It looks like somebody wrapped a chain around it and tried to pull it out, or they were pulling something with the car. Shocks are pretty original, not a big deal. Fuel sending unit has been modified with a piece of rubber hose that is not even high pressure fuel injection line. I'm gonna probably end up putting a new sending unit in to replace this rubber hose with probably a fuel pump. And then after that, we have the exhaust system. So I have this pipe welded on to here. We need to complete the rest of the exhaust, and I'm gonna buy some parts for that. Needs a new transmission mount also. I've decided that because I have to order all these parts, I'm gonna look at the interior, and for one of the rougher parts of the car, the interior. It does have these seat covers that were in here that they were kind of just sitting on. They obviously require removal of the seat to get underneath it, but these seats are in pretty rough condition. To fix these correctly would cost a pretty penny. So what my goal is, I'm going to see if I get a piece of foam to kind of cover up this metal here, pull the headrest off, and see if I can't get these seat covers actually on here to make it look obviously a little bit better than that. The rear seats already have those covers completely on there, and they fit okay. They're a little loose fitting, but they are covering it, and I think if I get the other seats to look that good, we'll be okay. The only thing I don't have is there's no headrest stuff, so we'll either have to leave the headrests off or poke them back through and just leave them be that color. Well, I've got a good idea of how to put these together and actually get these on there and make them look good. However, I moved the seat all the way back, and now I only get this much movement out of it, and it stops, and it won't go down anymore either. So I'm gonna have to pull the whole seat out so we can lubricate the track and figure out how to get the power seat to work. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get these on there, and they're gonna look great. So I pulled the back off, kind of the same deal. I got to pull these knobs off, and then I'll replace this whole piece, and I'll pack some foam over this so that it doesn't rub through again. All right, so I got the seat completely removed. Somewhere in here the track was binding up. I'll have to pull it apart and find out and make sure that all these motors are doing what they're supposed to do. I do have to take the track completely off the seat in order to get the material. There's what do they call them? Hog rings that lock the seat material onto the frame, and to get to them I'll have to take it apart so I get to the motor. This is a little different style seat with this front piece that's actually supposed to be extendable. I'm not going to care. I'm just going to wrap the material over that handle and leave it covered up, and I think it'll work great because this seat doesn't have that handle part to extend it out. These are some pretty special seats that would probably be very expensive to recover professionally correctly, and I have absolutely not real well, I kind of have an idea what I'm doing, but I don't really do interior work, so this is all kind of not something I normally would do. But I'm going to pull these rings out of here, and since I don't think I have any new ones, I got to try and save them or do my best to just figure out how to get the new material on there tight enough that it looks good. Hopefully we'll find out soon, but also get the vacuum out here and get this all cleaned up. I thought about getting a new piece of carpet because it's damaged here, but I'm missing a lot of these pieces. I'm missing this interior piece over here and a lot of the stuff in the back. And if I were to buy all of those parts, again, the price would get so high that I would have so much money in the car I won't be able to sell it. So I just want to make it run and drive. That's what we're going for. So I went ahead and I removed the seat track from the bottom of the seat to see why it was getting stuck. And I now have it to move forward and backward fine, but the up and down, it's binding really hard where the joints are. So I pretty much just have to take this all apart and lubricate everything, and I think we'll be in great shape. So as far as the seat goes, I have the bottom pulled off, and this is what we're working with. I've got to get this stuff off of here in order to get the material over, and then I don't have any of these rings, so I'm gonna have to try and reuse these. Oh wow, it rusted right through the frame of the seat. So the frame of the seat's in pretty rough condition. Huh. Well, it is an 85 and it is Iowa. The rest of the car is pretty solid, but T-tops do leak. Yeah, this is all falling apart here, where I'm supposed to attach the seat to. We're gonna have to make some modifications, and I mean, I guess the material doesn't even fit this style seat either, so we'll do the best we can. Well, I've spent some extensive amount of time trying to get this knob off of the side in order to recover this seat, but the whole frame is just totally rusted out and kind of falling apart anyway, and the seat cover really doesn't fit this seat. I think what I'm going to end up doing is I am going to buy a different car, possibly get a different parts car. That way I can get the seats out of it and some other parts. Hopefully that works out. I found one on Marketplace. I don't know what the deal is yet. I messaged a guy once, he messaged me back, but then didn't respond to my next message. So I'm still waiting to hear from him about when I can go look at it, but I don't think these seats are actually going to work for me. I think I'm just going to start over with different seats, because I think it'll save me a lot of time and headache, because not only do I have this knob that won't come off on the back of the seat over here in my mess, there's knobs on both sides of this seat. So in order to get those off, and I still am missing all the foam here, I think it's going to be better if I just start with a different seat and then put these covers on it, and they'll look like brand new. For now, I think I'm going to be done with this project until I find out about that parts car, along with all the other things I found wrong in the suspension, which I feel like I can just get a whole nother car, take all those parts off of it, and be so much further ahead than buying all these parts new. After realizing how bad a shape the seats are in and the rest of the chassis parts that I need in the rear with all the suspension components that are bent and worn out, I'm going to get a different car. Today, I'm going to go look at what was it? I think it's an 86 Camaro that somebody had put a bunch of different suspension parts into and a different rear end, but it doesn't have a motor and they want to keep their rims and tires. So basically I'm going to look at it as a parts car to hopefully get everything I need, so that way I can get this car back on the road. Well, it's freezing cold out and the sun's going down, so I don't know if I'm going to get any film of getting the car, but I'm going to pick up the new Camaro for the parts car. Well, for the Firebird, I'm picking up a Camaro parts car. Well, as you can see, it's dark, but I have a Camaro behind me. Well, we got some daylight, so here's my wonderful purchase. It is a no motor, does have a transmission in it. He said third and fourth gear were screwed up, but it only has 100 miles on the transmission and it was built by Monster. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Subframe connectors, all polyurethane bushings through the suspension. It has the street axles in it with supposedly a 410 and an Auburn gear posi. The exhaust, which is the number one thing I need for my Trans Am right now. And it has, well, a whole bunch of gauges, which is pretty cool. It's got an air fuel ratio gauge, a tach, a boost gauge, some other ones. I don't know that I'll use any of these older ones, but it has red interior and all the plastic I need. So between this car and the other one, obviously, again, things that sit for 5 years are filled with mice. Absolutely gross. They left the windows down and birds crapped all over it. But I've got a door panel now that's red, unfortunately for my black car, but it's better than no door panel. And the seats will be much easier to recover than the other ones that I took out, because they don't have those knobs on the side that I can't get off. So I'm going to recover these seats, and yeah, my Trans Am's going to be perfect. Well, much closer than it was. Well, so I got my parts car and I pulled the carpet out of the back because they had cut the part of the carpet that goes down in the tub here out of it. And they had put this insulation in here. And I knew I had a fuel pump problem. Somebody did it to this car too. So, bubble wrap and foam for sound deadener. I don't know about that, but look what I found here. They fixed this one with duct tape. So this had the same kind of quality repair to the fuel system, where instead of taking the tank out, somebody spray painted duct tape and thought that nobody would ever know. And apparently, I put a short out to say how this is not the way to do things. And a bunch of people commented, oh, that's how you do it in the Rust Belt. Well, it's not really how you do it in the Rust Belt, because obviously there's a fuel problem and it's leaking gas again. I'm assuming one of these hoses is probably leaking. How dumb. Well, this is not what I expected to find. However, I shouldn't be too surprised because I've seen a lot of this stuff that was done to this car was pretty cobbled up. I just wasn't counting on having duct tape for fire protection from the gas tank. I don't know why people do this. Yeah, they cut the lines right there and then ran rubber hose that's not fuel injection rated. I don't know, it looks wet on these lines here, like, well, let me crank the key over and see if it leaks. There's the fuel pump running. I don't know, somewhere, the very first time I started it, it leaked. And I'm guessing it probably came out of these hose clamps right here. Yep, actually you can see it right there. Just barely. The main feed line that they have coming out of here it's got a little bit of gas coming around it. So, I gotta figure out how I want to fix this one. As you can see, it cranks and cranks and cranks and doesn't start. And that's due to a fuel pump issue. Go! Well, it won't even start right now. That whole line is getting wet with fuel. It's not the right way to do things, guys. Trust me, you can take the tank out of these cars. It's not that hard. Now that this is already done, though, I might end up using it just because. I don't know. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to do this. This is not what I expected to find when I started taking the interior out of this car. But anyway, as you can see, I do need a lot of those parts. All this plastic's missing. This whole side on this side was all missing the plastic. The cover where the speakers are at, those are missing. Well, and they'd cut the carpet right here, so this was all missing the carpet down in here. Yeah. By the time I get it all done, it'll look really good. This carpet's in pretty rough shape. It's like completely worn through to where there's no carpet left there. And on the other side, there's a big rip in it. Not that I like the idea of having to use that mouse infested stuff, but there's a big tear in it right here. Yeah, so you can definitely see the fuel is leaking around this hose on top of the gas tank where there's not supposed to be a connection. Not sure how I'm gonna do that. I feel like the hole's already here. I'm obviously gonna wanna seal it up better than duct tape. I don't know, I may end up taking a piece of tin a little larger than this, and I'll come through here and pop a couple holes, and maybe we'll put some rivets in it and silicone it shut. Never had to do that in my life. I've worked on cars since I was 13 years old in the state of Iowa. Tons and tons of rusty cars. Never have I felt the need to cut through the floor to fix a car. It baffles me that people do that. I have seen it done, don't get me wrong. Obviously twice in 2 days here, because I had no idea that was done to this car, and I was really surprised to see it done to that car. But this has a Walbro fuel pump in it. There's no hole underneath that stereo. That floor is solid. The black car out front, put a brand new fuel pump in that, doesn't have a hole in the floor. So it can be done. It's just people are lazy. Or maybe they don't have the skill, in which case, pay somebody to do it right. Well, I'm getting started with replacing the bar here that's bent, and I'm off to a great start. So far, I've snapped off both the bolts that hold it. So, And this one is actually froze inside the bushing. And I'm probably gonna have to cut the head off of this side because it's just spinning inside of the metal sleeve. So, fun. Well, there it is. I managed to get the both the broken bolts out. This bushing in here was spinning inside there, but I was able to put, oh, not that one, it was this one that was spinning inside. This is the new one. Anyway, yeah, this one's been cut and welded. It's completely twisted and bent. And I got kind of lucky that I ended up taking this out of the car myself because I kept the bolts from the parts car. So I'm not waiting on bolts, even though they both broke. Well, now I just need to connect the exhaust from here to here, and I will have a full 3-inch exhaust system. I had to take and drop the rear end down quite a ways, pulled the shock and dropped it out, so that way I could fit the exhaust over top of it without having to cut it apart. Because they welded it all together. This is all welded here, and they actually welded the muffler as much as they clamped it. He tried stealing the muffler back off of it after I told him I would buy the parts car. I didn't realize it till I got it home, but this bracket here was cut off, and you could see how these were like freshly taken apart. He'd taken the clamps off. What a moron. Like, if I would have went back there and the exhaust was missing, I wouldn't have bought the car. So I don't know what he was thinking. He stole the power steering pump too. Not a big deal. I didn't really care so much about that, but the exhaust is really the reason I went for it. I also picked up, well, didn't pick up, I also saved the sway bar links from the other car so I can replace these ones that are shot here. So that's a good thing. Not that those are expensive, but it's one less thing I have to buy. The only thing left is going to be I need a transmission mount because this one's totally broken, and the one that came off the other car is junk because the way you had the transmission hanging from it, I don't trust it. I'll just buy a new one. And I got to weld this bracket on after I get the pipes straightened out exactly where they're going to go. All right, with that, I now have exhaust. So I've managed to get my sway bar links replaced. I still have to tighten those up. I got the panniard bar replaced. I got the exhaust installed and all put together here. Motor's all redone. Well, not redone, regasketed. This should be a nice car. I can't wait to hear what it sounds like with that 3-inch exhaust on it. I bet it sounds pretty good. Doesn't sound too bad. I can't breathe in here though. Now I finally got exhaust on it. I can finish tuning the engine because I don't even have the timing set because I didn't have any exhaust on it whatsoever. So I just got the distributor dropped in there and set enough to make it run. So we're gonna get it outside, warm it all the way up, get that timing adjusted, and I bet this car runs pretty good. I hope so anyway. I put a lot of work into it, so.
Well, now that I have the car running, unfortunately, I need to get it off of the hoist because I have a different project that's coming in this week, and I am going to have to finish the interior in part 4. It's also snowing outside, so I couldn't drive it even if I wanted to with the rear wheel drive. I'm sure I wouldn't get around too good.